This is KF7BRO with tonight's training. Please access the slides on the home page of ercconnect.org. We are going to be discussing Simplex operations, how to be an ERC Ninja operator. Please go to slide 2. What is Simplex operation? It is 2 or more radios communicating directly without the use of a repeater. Here are Elizabeth and Leah demonstrating Simplex operation on their 1010 radio. Please go to slide 3. As you can see from the diagram on the left, in Simplex, all radios are on the same frequency for transmit and receive, and the signal goes directly from one radio to the other. In contrast, a repeater, as shown on the right, is a two-way radio system that receives on one frequency and transmits on another at the same time. To use a repeater, your radio must be programmed to do the same thing, receive on one frequency and transmit on another. Tonight, our focus is successful Simplex communications, and that depends on several different factors which we will discuss during this presentation. Please go to slide 4. What are some reasons operators use Simplex frequencies? Well, they like to test their antennas and their radios. Sometimes there might be a little more privacy, although anyone can tune in at any time. Also, using Simplex frequencies leaves repeaters available for priority traffic, backup, alerts, or anytime wide area coverage is needed. We also need to remember that repeaters have limited power and can fail or be impacted by an emergency. Repeaters are designed for communications between stations that cannot communicate on Simplex. After making contact on a repeater, it is proper to move to a Simplex frequency for your conversation, if possible. I'd also like to note that many of the principles of amateur radio Simplex operation also are true for mesh core radio communications. Please go to slide 5. Let's talk a little bit about Simplex frequencies, or about any signals. It's important for us to understand that signals have a width. They are using frequencies in addition to the frequency on the radio's display. As it turns out, an FM signal occupies about 12 to 15 kilohertz. Transmitting on 146.52 actually uses 146.5125 to 146.5275 megahertz. You can see that two signals of roughly equal strength must be at least 20 kilohertz apart to avoid interference between them. The states of Idaho and Utah have decided to standardize on 20 kilohertz frequency splits, though some states do use a 15 kilohertz split, which does provide more channels, but also a greater chance of interference between those channels. The Idaho Falls Regional, soon-to-be Coordinating Council, Simplex nets, follow the 20 kilohertz frequency splits. To find a list of the Idaho-Utah 2-meter Simplex frequencies, go to the ERC website, ercconnect.org, click on Resources, and then the 2-meter Simplex frequencies. You can actually download databases to program your radio from that source. It's recommended to program in at least those 20 kilohertz frequencies. And if you operate outside of Idaho and Utah, you may also wish to program in the 15 kilohertz frequencies. You'll want to make a card with a list of those 20 kilohertz frequencies and include it with your Go Kit and all of your radios. Please go to slide 6. Let's talk about best practices for simplex operation. They're really pretty simple. You'll get the optimum performance from having the most efficient antenna at the greatest height above the surrounding ground elevation, with the shortest run of a good low-loss feed line, which provides the highest effective radiated power for the least battery consumption. So in other words, you basically need height and line of sight in order to have a good simplex connection. Please go to slide 7. Also, turn down your squelch or even off while you're operating simplex so that you can hear weaker stations. Headphones or speakers may help you hear weaker stations. And it's a good idea to help out your friends by giving feedback on their signal. Those are RST reports. Readability and strength. This report might sound something like, your signal is a 5.9. That means that the readability, or how easy the transmission was to understand, is a 5 out of 5, and the strength of your signal was a 9 out of 9. If the readability was pretty good, but the strength was weaker, it might be reported as a 5.6, for instance. Remember to pause 2 to 3 seconds between your transmissions to allow for priority traffic or relays who might be trying to get into your conversation. Remember that relays can help with communication with stations not heard. We'll talk more about that later. Go to slide 8. For many reasons, including the need to sometimes operate simplex, your first radio really should be a mobile radio like the one on the left with a minimum of 25 watts of power. This will get you into the repeaters reliably and give you the option of transmitting simplex for a reasonable distance, especially on ERC simplex nets. You can get an handheld radio next. Please go to slide 9. Amateur radio operators should always use the minimum power for reliable communication on whatever frequency they're using. But in simplex, that's going to be a higher power than for repeater use. Remember, the key word is reliable. If a handheld signal is so weak that it cannot be copied, it takes double the airtime and battery consumption from others to provide relays or repeats. So please, don't try to prove how low you can go on a net if you cannot be heard by net control. Please go to slide 10. Remember to learn to be frequency agile, as Kevin likes to say. Each of us should know how to use our radios well and be able to go from a repeater offset to simplex on our radio and be ready to change to a frequency not already programmed into our radio. For the ERC repeater at 146.880, it's a good idea to program the backup frequency of 146.280 megahertz simplex into your radio. Also, it's a good idea to learn the phonetic alphabet, and please don't get creative with your own or others will be confused and time will be wasted. Search on the ERC website for phonetics to see the ITU phonetic alphabet and pronunciation. Also, please remember to speak clearly and loudly and slow down so others can understand you more easily. This is not the time to speak in your normal, low, conversational voice. Please speak loudly and clearly. Go to slide 11. Here are some tips that are specific for our regional simplex nets, soon to be our coordinating council simplex nets. Remember that they are directed nets. You don't transmit until called for by the net control station, and then you provide only the information requested. Relays are necessary in many cases where the NCS cannot hear distant or weak stations on both VHF and HF nets. If you can hear a station the NCS cannot, break with the word relay and your call sign, then follow the NCS instructions to relay information from the distant station to the net control station. Especially during simplex operations in an emergency, relay stations may be strategically positioned to provide coverage for a large area. A liaison station is a type of relay station and may perform a number of functions depending on the needs. Those can include acting as a answering service or garbage filter for the main net control station. That would mean they monitor what's happening on a different frequency than the net control and report back critical information. Perhaps a liaison station may just monitor frequency activity and report appropriate info to the second site via a telephone, if available. Especially important in emergency nets when there's a need to communicate with several different agencies. So keep that liaison station assignment in mind if you are a net control operator. Remember, the ERC is communications service, not just radio service. We use every means of communication available. Also, remember to stay on frequency until the entire net is concluded, unless you inform the net control station that you need to be excused, and no explanation is necessary. You may wish to write down exactly what you're going to say in your report. In the case of regional or coordinating council simplex nets, it will be something like your call sign, the stake you represent, your power level and source, and any formal traffic. Please go to slide 12. While you're participating in a net, pay attention as if you were the net control station, because you never know when you might have to take over as NCS. And have a paper and pencil handy. Jot down call signs. You never know when you might need to relay to the net control station. And please, do be kind to the net control station. Don't hijack control of the net from the NCS. Defer to the net control in all questions and always follow their instructions. Try not to pile on the net control too quickly. Pause a few seconds to make sure there are no other stations calling. And did I mention follow all instructions from the NCS? Please be patient with the net control. We're just learning like all ERC stations. There can be computer or internet glitches. We may forget something. We might just get flustered. Remember, next week, you might be the net control station. Please go to slide 13. Here is a handy list of the Wednesday ERC nets, nearly all of them simplex, except for the last one, which is the net we're conducting right now, held on the 146.880 repeater. Please go to slide 14. This concludes my presentation. Now you too can operate simplex like a ninja, slide 15, or at least like Elizabeth and Leah. Slide 16. Are there any questions or comments? Please come with your call sign.
Bravo 7, Hotel Tango Hotel.
Hotel Tango Hotel.
Thank you very much, Holly. One thing that I run across a lot of the time is when we're giving our call sign phonetically, we rattle it off real fast, like AB7HTH. And we can't get all of that fast. Try to do it slow, like Kilo Bravo 7, Hotel, Tango, Hotel. Over.
That's a really good suggestion because we're, after all, we're using phonetics to try to convey what our call sign is. We're taking the time to not just say the letters. So, good point. Take your time to say it distinctly and clearly, which goes back to one of my main points, which is to speak up. Speak clearly and loudly. Thanks for that. Any other comments?
Kilo Echo 5, Sierra Tango Foxtrot.
KE5 STF David.
Things I try to keep in mind is when I give my call sign phonetically or not, I try to envision in my mind that I'm actually the NCS and writing it down, and what speed would I want that call sign to be mentioned. The other thing is I think a lot of people really want to be clear and be heard well on the radio, so they do speak clearly and loudly. One thing I would encourage them to do is to talk past the microphone, not into the microphone, because when you talk into the microphone on the radio, you get a lot of whistling sounds. Back to net control.
Thank you for that, David. That is very true. If you are envisioning yourself as a net control station, you will slow down, giving your call sign phonetically. And you are absolutely right. You should not be speaking directly into the microphone. It should be at a slight angle in front of your mouth. Thanks for that. Any other comments?
KF7TGD.
KF7TGD, Jonathan.
Good evening. This is Kilo Foxtrot 7, Tango Golf Delta. And thanks for the great training. It reminded me of a couple of things. And Holly, I must say, I just love the pictures of your granddaughters with the tin cans and the string. Just so adorable.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it. I love those photos, too. They've grown up a little since then, sadly. Thanks for your comments. Anyone else?
Kilo Echo 8, Juliet India Lima.
Juliet India Lima.
I find that sometimes during the regional nets, I am unable to hear net control. Is there a procedure or a protocol that I should follow when I cannot hear net control, but I can hear others in the area checking in?
Well, I think there are a couple of things you can do. One that you might consider is speaking with net control stations before the net or at a time other than the Wednesday evening net, and letting them know that you're unable to copy them, at which point they may choose to have someone who is located between their home QTH and yours also announce the net. I know that is one thing that the Idaho Falls South region does, so that they're sure that everyone who wishes to does hear the announcement of the net. So there's one thing to do. The next thing to do is to check in after you hear someone else check in, even if it isn't your stake, just to be sure you are in there. Does anyone else have a suggestion for that situation?
Kilo Mike 4, Quebec Alpha Alpha.
KM4QAA, Paul.
Yes, a good thing would be just before the net starts, contact another station that you have heard on the air previously. Maybe it's your ECS, maybe it's just a friend. But call and let them know you're there, and that way they could call your call sign in to the net control station and say that you require a relay.
That's a great idea, especially if it's someone in your stake, and that would get you checked in at the correct time. Thanks for that, Paul.
KB7ITU.
KB7ITU, Steve.
Good evening, Holly and everybody. So in a situation where if you have not been able to contact the net control beforehand, before net, or even on another day, if you can hear other stations checking in, break. Just break with your call sign, and do it a couple of times. If they can't hear you, then or if they don't acknowledge you, or if they don't relay you in for net control, say break, station can't hear net control, and leave it at that, and then try it again if that doesn't, if that first time it doesn't work. KB7ITU.
Thanks for that, Steve. I know net control operators would rather hear someone even calling in at the wrong time than missing someone on that net. So great suggestion. Any other comments or questions tonight?
Kilo Mike 4, Quebec Alpha Alpha.
KM4 QAA, Paul.
Yes, I'd like to remind people that for simplex operation, a beam antenna works too. You might have a big 7-element 2-meter beam like I use to point at the Sedgwick Mountain repeater to talk to the Soda Springs net, or maybe you've got one of those satellite handheld beams, or a handheld beam for use during fox hunts. Use your tools, strap that beam to a pole and stick it up and point it at your net control station. Back to you, Holly.
Awesome suggestions. And Paul, I know you are one who has to put up and take down antennas because of your the location of your home. So that's a possibility, right?
Yes. The Arrow company sells a handheld 2-meter and 440 beam. It's meant for satellite work. You can get it either as one or both combined. And of course, there are other companies that have larger beams. But the Arrow beam can be pulled apart and stored pretty compactly. Put it in a carrying case.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Paul. This is KF7BRO. Any other comments or questions? I heard someone break the squelch. I think they may be on Simplex. Is there a relay? Would that station please call again? Asking again for a relay.
Having tried again, and stations listen. This is KB7ITU for identification. I have them listen to the reverse because he is on the repeater. Just have him touch the reverse on the radio and listen again, and we might be able to get him in that way. KB7ITU.
Thanks, Steve. Would that station please call again? And all stations who can, please listen on the reverse. Is there anyone who is able to copy?
That was Kilo Golf 7 Juliet X-Ray Quebec K7SE.
Thank you so much. Kilo Foxtrot 7 Juliet X-Ray Quebec. Go ahead with your comment, and SEE, hopefully you can relay.
When the person providing the training is speaking so softly that they are not coming through. Over. This is Kilo Golf 7 Juliet X-Ray Quebec.
Kilo Golf 7 Juliet X-Ray Quebec indicated that some of the training people are speaking too softly and they do not carry well through the repeater. K7SE.
Thank you so much, Bill, and thank you, JXQ. That is true in practically every setting, that there are some who are not thinking about projecting their voice. Some of that can be made up for by tweaking mic gain, I'm sure, but there really is no substitute for speaking loudly and as clearly as possible, and remembering that a radio voice transmission starts with you. So make your voice as strong and clear as you possibly can. Thanks for the reminder, JXQ. Any other comments? Thank you, everyone, for your comments and questions tonight. This is KF7BRO, back to Net Control.